for a guy who started out as a kid listening to Elvis, you've come a long way musically. How much of that early childhood stuff is still, you know, let's say you're playing a classical piece, how much of that childhood stuff is still in there?
It's in there. I mean, my mum used to play Rachmaninoff and Brahms, Beethoven, all that. That was going on. I used to judge her mood, you know, by the way she played, and if she played. If she didn't play, I was in trouble. I was in real trouble. It was not a good signal. I'd either gone wrong or my dad was messing around. I don't know what was going on.
Wow.
But there was always quality music, and the radio, I don't even want to tell you how long ago it was, but the radio played marching bands, and so I'd walk from one room with my mum playing, you know, something beautiful, and then we'd hear, you know, post-war stuff, you know, going, so always music. And my dad was a jazz fanatic, and he used to invite his friend, who was a young 20-year-old who played Fats Waller, so I got that. So at this, you know, to a kid of that age, everything is every day, you know, thousands of things happen that you log up here, you know, and music was it, you know. So when Elvis came out and all the rockers, it was another shock, you know. Where do I go now? From Chopin to jazz to, and then Elvis Presley. I mean, I just didn't know what to do.
So by the time Elvis came along, you were already immersed in a lot of different kinds and styles of music.
Well, I was still, I mean, I wasn't heard of until the Yardbirds picked me up. I was scrubbing around local, you know, towns for nothing, you know, like playing ballrooms and fights and people throwing bottles and
playing fights. Yeah.
No, I know they did. We used to scarp her out the back if that happened, but you never get paid. I mean, forget about it. If we got paid, that was a real plus.
We'd like to have some music with the local Friday night fight, Jeff. Would you like to play?
Oh, no, music, rock and roll and fights went together, you know. You just make sure you got out of the building before they kicked off. We had the advantage of seeing up higher from the stage. We could see the rumble like, you're going to cause trouble over there, right there. Usually over women. But
wears it with pride, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Listen, in a recent interview, you talked about the emotional power of classical music, since you were just talking about Rachmaninoff and your mom and stuff, versus the emotion of the blues. Would you contrast the two of those for us as...
I got just as much a kick out of playing Nessun Dorma at the end. It's just like the best blues, isn't it? It's a familiar, simple melody that everybody wells up when they hear. It's the same way when, you know, Buddy Guy plays a solo. He takes you on a real roller coaster. And Jimmy, you know, of the Hendrix, you know. It was like volcanic one minute and then tender the next minute. And the classical, you know, there are certain classical pieces that have that.
Saying that
that enable.
That I was apologising for the fact you've hardly ever played.
In this country.
But now, according to this poster behind us, you are about to.
That's basically to let everybody know that I'm not dead. Yeah.
Well, why were you, or why did we all think you weren't? Professionally, yeah.
No.
But I mean, you hadn't played for, I think, was it 7 years before you did quite a big American tour, end of last year?
In this country, there's 7 years since I played England.
Yeah. So what sort of prompted, is it, do you get letters from people every week saying, please, Jeff? No, none at all?
No letters.
Not one? From anybody? So it must have come from you then?
Well, I just, you know, my market's basically in America, in Japan, and I suppose you sort of feed the habit over there more, you know.
Yeah, but obviously you do feel a desire to play here, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it.
Oh, I love playing, but it's been impossible to make ends meet, you know, regarding sort of money in this country.
Yeah, I mean, it really is down to that.
Plus, I've been a lot of American players, and they don't like touring here too much. At least the ones I've played with. Like Carmine and Timmy, when I had BBA together, they didn't like touring England.
Is that what...
They couldn't stand the, you know...
Very devastating news. The legendary guitarist Mr. Jeff Beck, one of the most influential and legendary rock guitarists of all time, a man who has influenced not only musicians in the US and Europe but also in the entire world, has lost his life. Very devastating news. His death comes actually today when his family came out to announce that he had passed on as a result of meningitis. Very devastating and gut-wrenching news. The British musician who rose to fame as part of the Yardbirds, where he replaced Eric Clapton before forming the Jeff Beck group with Rod Stewart, died, his tone, the presence, and above all, the volume redefining guitar music in the 60s and his influence on heavy metal, jazz rock, and even punk actually will always be remembered. Beck's death was confirmed, as I've told you, by the family via his official Facebook and Twitter page that has over close to 1 million followers. The family came out to release this very gut-wrenching and heartbreaking news, and in a statement they released, they said, "On behalf of his family, it's with deep and profound sadness that I will share the news of Jeff Beck's passing." That's what the statement read. They further said, after suddenly contracting a bacterial meningitis, he peacefully passed away yesterday. His family asked for privacy while they processed this tremendous and huge, devastating loss. And this is a man, by the way, back in the day, who was really very awesome, and he has been and kept his aura, his form, and his uniqueness in his sound. Speaking when he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the second time, I think that was around 2009, Mr. Beck said, "I play the way I do because it allows me to come up with the sickest sounds possible." Ideally, I agree with that, because when you look at the sounds of Jeff Beck and compare it with all the other legendary guitarists, ideally you can tell that Jeff was really out of this world. His uniqueness, the sound really was really awesome, and ideally you could tell that really this is a top class guitarist. So he further said in that interview that that's the point now, isn't it? I don't care about the rules, and in fact, if I don't break the rules at least 10 times in every song, then I'm not doing my job properly. So that's the uniqueness of Jeff. He was really unique and very awesome with regards to producing nice and top quality sounds. So posting a picture paired together on Instagram, very many legends have come out to pay tributes to the passing of the legend, and his close friend Sir Rod Stewart called Beck the greatest. Jeff Beck was on another planet, and he took me and Ronnie Wood to the USA in the 60s, and he spanned the Jeff Beck group, and we haven't looked back since. So that was part of the emotional tributes that were paid by the close friend Sir Rod Stewart to Jeff Beck, who was one of the few guitarists that when playing live would actually listen to me sing and respond, "Jeff, you are the greatest, my man. Thank you for everything. RIP." So that was the statement that was actually released by Mr. Stewart after the passing of the greatest and one of the best guitarists of all time. The US rock band Hollywood Vampires, compromising of John Depp, actually a man who even released a song just a few months ago with Jeff. Alice Cooper and Joe Perry plus Tommy Henriksen also saluted Jeff. They said, "The passing of our dear friend and guitar legend is tough to handle. Jeff's incredible musicianship and passion for guitar has been an inspiration to all of us." The band wrote in a very touching statement and tearful statement. "He was a true innovator, and his legacy will live on through his music. Rest in power, the king, Jeff." So that was the statement that was released by the US rock band Hollywood Vampires, that is headed by Mr. John Depp. He even had released actually had released one of the last singles which Jeff released. So many legends are still coming out to pay tributes. Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page and so many others. Rolling Stones, Black Sabbath's frontman Ozzy Osbourne have all come out, plus Sir Brian May, to pay tributes to the legend. In this moment in time, we send our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and the fans, not only in the US, not only in the Europe, but in the entire world, who have really been touched by the works of Jeff. Rest in power, the king, Jeff Beck.